call the meeting to order. Oh my gosh. For the Community Center Committee on January 31st, 2022. Should we report who we are? Is that a good thing to do?
It is, and it actually isn't a bad idea to hit it off with talking about having a secretary or someone
Yes.
who at least takes notes so they
Yes.
can start at the beginning.
Okay, great. Let's figure out. Do you want to take notes? Does somebody want to take notes? I have a computer.
I can take notes. I just need the paper.
Paper. Yeah. What?
It's really fast.
I only need to take my minute. So we have, Mary Kate is offering to be secretary, and Tom, you can hear us okay?
Yes.
So I'm Leslie Byrne, here to chair or co-chair the meeting to be determined. You can go around and say who we are. I don't know. Sure, let's do that.
Mary Kate Aftaselli.
Yeah, Rob Beal. Mark Waltz, assistant town manager. And when we talk, if we look at the owl, that's the best way.
Pam Leduc, Parks and Recreation Director.
Steve Kessler, newbie.
Thank you, Steve. So we wanted to start with just talking about where we've come and sort of catch us back up because it's been a little while since we've met. I have in the minutes that we did a presentation to the board in June with Justice, which feels like a long time ago now. And the follow-up to that was at meeting with the board for a workshop and with the following plans. The selectmen were to call members who had not been attending. So we wanted to kind of sort out those details and make sure that we have a solid team of people.
Did you want Tom to introduce himself?
Tom, did you introduce yourself?
No, I wasn't sure where I was at the desk. Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer is on Zoom. Thank you. So with that, Rob is here. We had a couple calls to people who were choosing not to come, and then we found Steve through that. So that was part of it, finding new members. And then Pam, you were to reach out to UNH professor for a rough estimate on costs.
I did.
And you did?
I do. Do you want me to report it
Sure.
now? Okay. I did reach out to a professor. He's the chairman of the recreation division at UNH. His name is Robert Barcelona. And I'll just give you a brief. I sent him a brief because he and I had met at a couple of conferences. Pam, thanks for the reach out. Apologies for the late response. Yesterday and today both were jammed. But I wanted to get back to you on this. I would love to talk through what a project would look like. Typically, we would do a full needs assessment project for approximately $10,000. That would include site visit and evaluation, level of service analysis, agency benchmarking, backgrounds, trends, and research, public engagement with a full needs assessment survey, focus groups of the key stakeholders, pop-up public engagement events, final technical report, and a presentation to the select board. I can give you a more formal scope of work if you think that is something that would be the committee would be interested in. I can also say we will work with just about any budget. We do this as a community service activity, mostly with my students, and just try to recover basic costs, graduate assistant time, travel, research database costs, etc. So if you had less to spend, we would just cut back on some scope of the work. We've done a number of projects in Maine, Standish, York, and Portland specifically, and have done projects in Massachusetts, Burlington, and Danvers. In New Hampshire, we've done Moultonborough, Exeter, Wakefield, Hampton, Derry, Farmington, and in Vermont, we've done Jericho. We've worked with all sorts of budgets and all sizes of communities. In terms of time frame, most projects typically run about 4 months from start to finish. Happy to talk more, or if that budget works for you and you would like me to send out a formal scope of work, I'm happy to. If you have another number in mind, let me know and I can build a scope of work around that. Look forward to hearing from you. And this was actually at the end of October. So we heard back from Bob. And I did reply to him and explain that we were waiting for new members and that we would be in touch with him once we had met and got organized and hear from him. And I actually am gonna see him in March at another conference I'm going to, so.
So what are we gonna do with that information? Do we need to have any sort of comparison
Well,
shopping?
I actually have the email from Matt. Matt
Okay.
forwarded it to Mark and Mark forwarded it along to me. And it said, this was Matt's email to her. Good evening, Josie. It's been a very long time. If you don't remember me, blah, blah, blah. He was one of the equivalent of the, in his class. And so she replied to him and said, hello, Matt. I do remember you and happy to receive your email. I'm happy to hear you are on the Topsham's board. I live in Bath, so I know a lot about Topsham and travel over your way quite frequently. I cannot take on any consulting at this time, nor is it possible for me to assemble a team of students due to a fuller than usual plate. Professor Dahlia Lynn Hanman, our public and nonprofit management faculty member, retired unexpectedly in August. We thought we'd be able to fill the position quickly, but with no such luck. So the remaining 3 faculty are dividing work up. Professor Emerita Carolyn Ball has experience in doing the things you mentioned and may be available. She is retired now, has her own consulting business. She's not looking to get rich, just stay engaged in local government. So I think she could be affordable. She is a select board member for the town of Southwest Harbor, so she knows and understands the territory. And here's a link, and he gave her LinkedIn website. And then she went on and said another option is Jim D'Amicis, a PPM grad and president of Cameline Associates. He would be much more expensive. Wish you the best.
Would it be reasonable to put an action step to contact the first person who's reasonable and
I think that's purely up to you guys. I do think he is recreation oriented and familiar with having done that compared to the others. But I don't want to, I'm not here to tell you that's, you know, you have to go one way or another.
He's done so many of the, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the cost, the 4-month timeline, and it'd be interesting to reach out to some of the communities where they've done work with that group, just for the
Yeah,
associated
I've
costs.
shared a couple of them with you guys in emails. Standish is one, and I can tell you the town of Standish, he charged them $5,000 for what you got. A friend of mine is the recreation director out there.
That's exactly what I wrote down.
What?
I go 10,000 could be 5,000 easily.
Yeah.
What was the, Jen, what was the third community? It was Standish, York, and
Portland.
Portland.
And the York one, I think we shared as well with you guys.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
He's easy to talk to, he's flexible, he knows what he's doing. But I personally would favor him because I know of him and what work that he's done. I know Molten Borough and what he did for the town of Molten Borough. But it doesn't mean that we should cut short the other people. I just don't think they're specific and specified to what we want.
He sounds ready to go.
Doing anything wrong if we just go with this person?
UNH one?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, we don't need to like show that we've gone out to bid or anything like that.
No, I mean, we kind of already have with these things.
Yeah, and I think when we met in person with the Board of Selectmen, the discussion we had with them was what kind of money we should be spending. And I think that if we were to sit down with Bob and have that discussion of, we don't quite want to go this much, you know, or we want, these are the things we really need to have, then we can build it to what we feel we want from what we talked about with him. But I mean, that's my personal opinion, but you're the committee, it's
Yeah.
your decision, it's not mine.
Yeah. Tom, anything from you?
No, I think the first one's got a lot of good things said about them for other projects they've done, so.
Are you comfortable? Should we take a vote and just see if we want to, or just take an opinion?
That's probably a
I'm
good way
fine
of
with
going. Maybe
I'm
it's
fine
all
with going. Say again, I'm sorry?
decided. Maybe all decided. Why don't we take a vote and see if everybody's in favor of it?
Who's in favor of UNH?
I just don't want to give him what he's asking. And where are we getting the money for that?
I think that
It's in the budget.
yeah, so, well, and to bring folks up to speed, when we met with the selectmen, there is money from the Quality of Life Fund that has been put aside for this type of project. I think, what was the figure? Was it 15, Tom? You're good with the numbers. You keep track of that better.
That's what I remember is the 15.
Yeah. Not to say that we had that to spend, but we could work within that. And I think if we came back at 75, 5 to 75, that I don't think they would be shy. But my thought is that we ask Bob to attend our next meeting by Zoom.
Oh, great.
Is Bob the UNH professor?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we could, you guys can, discuss take a look at the plans that he's prepared
Yes.
and talk about what you're looking for.
Well, it'd be nice to actually know what you're missing out on if we are to take a lower price too, because if it's something major, then, if we have the money, then we spend it, but.
And I guess I look at it like sort of an à la carte thing where we're not gonna know the price until we figure out exactly what it is that we want them to look at. And if it's, 8,000 or, if he can do everything we want for 8,000, then we do it. And then we just plan from there what it is, the other details. But I think it's really just piece by piece that we figure out what we need and then we're gonna come up with a cost. So I would think 10,000 would be the Cadillac and then we figure out what we need in there.
Yeah, if we all agree that's a fair price.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what the idea would be that we would have discussion after
Yes.
we met with him and then propose a dollar amount, right?
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
we have time.
Not to exceed 10,000.
Yeah.
Even though we have 15. So I think,
Yeah, I've just always been a fan, even if they give it to you, you don't have to spend it.
I agree. Okay, so we then say yes to him on moving forward with conversation and having him at the meeting. Pam, can you?
Once we know when we're meeting again,
Okay.
I know that he will actually be in the state the week of March 13th, but he'll be up at the Samoset.
Oh, that's the conference.
That's the conference.
Okay.
This is easy enough to do it this
Yeah,
way.
we can go
though.
there.
Okay.
We'll just go there.
So I have actually a question about that, having been on the comp plan update committee, the proposal that the vendor we ended up using, so they actually wrote a proposal with Bob, actually write a proposal once we told him, okay, so then we would
The
actually.
scope of services.
Yeah, scope of
That's what he's
service, we would
saying in
actually
the
see
email.
them in writing, okay.
Yeah.
Because it would really help, I think, to know, and to Steve's point about having some other money, is that would we end up incurring any expenses for anything that we needed to do locally ourselves, either promotion or like, any kind of outreach that we'd have to do, ads in the paper, anything else that we would need to do that would not be.
Like
directly-
internet coverage with.
Yeah. Well, I'm just
When
saying,
we
like,
did the comp plan down at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fire station, there was this huge internet bill that came back from the,
oh,
and
really?
so it was kind of one of those, oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
because they were sitting down there with the computers doing all these designs, and we never thought
Yeah.
about, no, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
there.
so I think it's good to have some extra for
Mhm.
unexpected expenses that we might have that we might want to do something we haven't even thought of yet regarding this, so.
Well, it's just nice to understand too, like $10,000 doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, when for this size community, he may have tailored something for the Portland community, that's $10,000 in the
Yeah.
Cadillac, as you referred to it. When in reality, all of it's unnecessary for this project.
Mhm.
And so we'll get down to the
Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds
the
great.
details. We have a better understanding.
Good, Tom? Does that sound okay?
It sounds good to me.
So I've written down next steps, 2 possibilities for creating a needs assessment, and I don't know what the 2 are, so I wrote this about a month ago. So anything else about that? I think that's probably the 2 options there.
I think that's what it
Yeah.
was I had sent these to you.
Yeah.
As, just to let you
Yeah.
know that we had heard back from them.
Okay, right, that makes sense. So as far as a 6-month timeline, we could plan on maybe meeting with him in March. Ish, right? I would think that that would be reasonable.
I mean, if you wanted to do it this way, you could even do it before then. With the owl and screen and stuff.
Yeah.
Up here beside Tom.
Okay.
The other side I would kind of think about this is just because of how semesters work, that if he's gonna use this as a teaching mechanism, how we fit into his schedule may be an issue.
Yeah,
So I would think the sooner the better, whether it's gonna be a summer project or whether it's gonna be a fall project for his students.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I don't think we're gonna be a spring project.
well, let's plan February then. Meet
I
the
get,
month of February.
why don't we try to get through tonight,
Yeah.
come up with a meeting date,
Okay.
and then I can reach out and see if he can make it or
Great. Okay.
not. on Zoom.
And then the next steps would be the scope of, what was that, scope of practice? Scope of
Scope of services,
services.
scope of work.
And that might be March. Anything else that we need more, anyway, we'll get to more members, but 6-month timeline of what to do next. Anything else with that as far as this proposal?
So we want to meet with Bob.
And see his scope of service.
Develop a scope of service. Or a scope of work.
I wonder at what point do we need to think about those in the community that we might need to reach out to, that Bob might want to talk to, you know? I think that some community outreach did send one letter to those that had expressed interest from the survey. So it might be nice to send a letter of an update, maybe after our next meeting. To
Well,
say-
also, I think once we kind of build the scope of services, you're gonna need to go back to the Board of Selectmen,
Okay,
do a follow-up. Say, hey, we've gotten together now, we have a 5-member team. We decided to go with this individual, these are the reasons why, this is how much it's gonna cost us, here's a copy of the scope of work. And we have your blessing.
great, okay.
I think that's the way I heard that from
I
that, didn't
agree.
you?
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't feel we had to go out to bid, but we had to look at what was there and who could provide us the best product.
Okay.
I think where we need to go to bid would be if we were set on some consultant that's $50,000 and it's, but whereas these guys are so reasonable and stuff and need so much history, so I don't think there's gonna be issue if we just select them.
Okay.
But if you wanted to do an RFP, you could, but I can't imagine you're gonna find a better value than this guy.
I can pull up and probably should pull up just for knowledge and reminding people, and I'm not even sure Mary Kate's seen it. The RFP that Andrew had prepared that we were going to put out 2 years ago, that kind of, when the committee kind of went south with the Board of Selectmen and things happened there, that at least would give you a sense of what a RFP was asking for. This is knowledge.
So we'll put that out.
I'll
within
email
the-
that
yep,
to all of
okay,
you.
Great. I wonder if it's reasonable to pull together the pieces that Bob has. I guess it's, that he did for the other communities to share with everybody on the committee again. I mean, it's in previous emails, but, so we probably have something, but for everybody to
I
have
can-
it and Tom has it.
Either tomorrow or Wednesday, if you'd like, I can email you a copy of Andrew's RFP and a copy of Standish and York's.
Mhm. Be nice to have that all together.
I may have
I think
more,
we've got Scarborough's too.
yeah,
Is
which
there-
is not Bob, but, yeah.
Like with the state, if you do an RFP for anything, right, you identify specific, the specifics for your project, whether you're building a boat or whatever you're doing. And then it's low bidder, period. That's not the case through the town, or it is?
If we're not putting an RFP out, if we are going back to
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen, I'm just providing, when we went to them with the RFP,
Yeah.
that was even before you were
It
here.
was, I remember.
When we went to them with that, it was just too much too soon for them.
Yeah.
We hadn't done a survey. We hadn't even really been together but 3 months. We had done some faux pas that we found out about by inviting parties to the table that they didn't necessarily feel we should yet.
I think that'll be, I think you did send it to me. I think that'll be good to look at and to inform our conversation with Bob, because we'll see what we've already talked about and what we might want to add. Or we could just update it. we take some language from that.
It's a Rob's question. We basically have to just justify why we're not doing the RFP.
That's why we're, yeah. I mean, and Bob's take, from my sense is that he's kind of looking at these opportunities as almost community service, partially community service. So the reality is, you're getting a good value. If it's got a proven record with other communities, it's probably a solid direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion at least.
We had put on I had put on the agenda with other people's inputs, longer planning. What are we currently here to do? And I think that just, Pam, what you were saying is, I think our goal is now to get this information and report back to the board. And then at that point, we would start to have Bob do his work. And that's when the community, we would, reach out to people in the community, maybe that he might need to talk to, or those kinds of things. But is there anything else as far as, I just felt like we should probably all talk about that, because it's we're coming from different directions, different places.
I think part of what the thinking was about that is just making sure that like Rob and Steve were aware from the last select board meeting about like kind of what the thinking was about a few years out on this, that this would not be kind of like an imminent
That happened tomorrow.
thing. I think they were talking like
Sort of in the
2025.
5-year plan,
Yeah.
5-year plan, I think,
Sure.
this is a long
Obviously.
term,
Every
Yes.
step takes a vote.
yeah.
well, and the select board could change in that time too, in terms of what priorities are and stuff. So it's more kind of like just
Yeah.
letting you guys know that
Together.
we're,
Yeah.
and it's still at a very formative stage, I think,
Yeah.
is.
Well, somebody probably already explained this, but how do we, you say it's in the budget, but how do we spend money that we don't know that we have? I just don't.
We know we have it. So there's money over the years at town meeting that gets put aside for certain things that are at the time. Long story, when they built the road beside us here, there was a moratorium on a lot of things. And one of the agreements was that the town made with a lot of our conservationists, is that a good word? I guess, yeah. Was that we would put money aside from every yearly budget so that we could make improvements to recreational or conservation type of projects. And when Monument Place was built, that was part of the fear that we were developing too fast. And this was 10 years ago now. But that was the agreement. So every year for 6 or 7, I think, Tom, you were here when we were still doing this, weren't you?
No,
No, was it? Okay, so every year we would put X amount of dollars away, and I don't know the exact amount that is in the quality of life fund, but I do know that $15,000 of it was put aside for this committee to begin to pursue looking at what we could have for a community center or a community building of some type.
That's even better than what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
No, that's fine. It's kind of to bring it back into course, and I sometimes feel like I'm the historian. But Mark's been here, he just wasn't here at the time, but he did a lot of it as well, because he lived in town so long.
And something that we've talked about as a committee too, is that I can speak for myself, that I'm here to just take one step at a time. I don't have an agenda, I don't have a plan of what's gonna happen or where it's gonna go. My hope is that we can just do step by step and determine what is needed in the community and what we get for feedback. So it's just the way that I find it works best for me, is that I just don't have an agenda. I don't know what's gonna come. I don't know if anybody has anything with that, but I think that's been helpful for me.
I like the way you said that, Leslie, and I have to keep telling myself is we still haven't decided to build a community center, and that's not really what we're looking forward to. What we're trying to determine is that the town wants one and there's a need.
Yeah.
It's very easy to jump out ahead and try to build it before we identify the need in the process.
Right.
I think that's what you were saying too, Leslie, one step at a time.
Yeah.
A little history for you, which is kind of interesting, is over in Brunswick. You all have heard or seen what's happening there. Some of you have probably been asked to participate or give your feedback on certain things. There was a meeting of all the recreation directors in the region, and I attended it to listen to the questions and what they were asking us and what they were looking for. And after it was all said and done, and they started having more community events and more items, and they started to explore what their dream was. It's kind of interesting because they wanted a turf field and they wanted a few of these other things out at the rec center in Brunswick. And all of a sudden, this whole other group has swooped up over in Brunswick. I don't know if you've heard or read any of this, that wants the turf field at the high school and doesn't want to spend the money on it out at the rec field. And so now it's become even more controversial. So it's not to say that we aren't going to have the same kind of thing along the way. I tend to think we're not quite as controversial as Brunswick can be about certain things, but it's very interesting in listening and talking to them over there of what's happened just from that initial phase. They've all kind of had to take a step back and reassess where they're going with things.
Well, they didn't just want an indoor pool, they want an outdoor pool as well as a pickleball court, as well as.
But they wanted us, they were very heavily trying to lure us in. We happen to have a town manager that is a resident in Brunswick and doesn't like his taxes as it is. And he was very, "Wah,"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you're not gonna come over here and take it from us to
Yeah,
build it,
yeah,
so.
Yeah.
So it was just a very interesting process to get through.
Interesting.
And I just want to go back to the point, thank you, Kim, that's really helpful to hear that background, is that the longer term planning, so Rob and Steve, in terms of like the 2025 number, I think it was important to just repeat what Leslie and Tom were saying about one step at a time, because we had sent out the survey. So that got a lot of people excited about like, what could we do in the town? There was questions about the pool and daycare and all that kind of stuff. But the gap between having completed that survey and what actually is going to happen with the sort of materializing is longer than I think most people would expect. And so that's like, even with Bob, he'll ask questions and he'll be generating interest and excitement and stuff, but it's still going to probably be like even a longer process than that. So it's just like balancing that out with what's going to unfold, I guess.
Yeah. And it is, I don't know if you guys, have you seen the documents from the survey? Have you looked
I
at them
did,
at
yeah.
all?
I actually just
And-
reviewed the presentation that you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
is helpful.
Yeah.
Justice
It is
did a-
helpful.
Yeah, Justice did a nice job, and I think that was helpful for the selectmen to see, because when we initially had done it, we had said, well, how many responses do you want for it? And they had said, we thought that they felt 1,000 was a good calling, and we had 999,
Yeah.
and I didn't present it, so it was like, well, we got our hits at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving because we have a long agenda.
Oh, Leslie, one thing that wasn't on the agenda is the remote meeting policy.
It is on there. Yes. Access to meetings, discussion about adopting a meeting policy. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
So definitely. So as far as membership, welcome Steve. Thank you for joining us.
Yay, Steve.
Yay. So I did reach out to and text back and forth with Lindsay, who was a person in the community. I'm forgetting her last name that. Patton. And that did not come to fruition. And you had made some contacts with another person, Jenna, in the community.
Yeah, I
That did
think
not-
once we talk about the remote policy,
Okay.
then we could probably go back to her.
Okay. So I think we're, ideally 7. So ideally 2 more people in the community, right? That's really what we're striving for. So just keeping that in mind as we move forward, we can add more people as they're interested. So the other thing to think about is, what skills we have, what skills we bring to the table. And that is just, if we want to get specific, I think I don't even know what everybody's skills are that they have that they bring to the table. I think that's, you know, do we want to go around right now and sort of just do a quick little, what do we bring? And that way, just to, so we can think about the other two people that we're looking for, what is maybe a missing one. So I'll go first. Yes, okay, so I was initially interested because I'm a community member, and I've got 2 kids and they're growing up, and that's fine, but I think just as a community member, I thought that it would be great to see if this can come to being. I'm a sociology major, and so I like groups, I like dynamics, I'm an extrovert, I wanted to meet the needs of the community. I'm an occupational therapist in the schools, so I also bring that I know sort of what's happening for kids in the community. So it's me.
Great. I'll
Sure,
go. That's
you
fine.
go.
What do I bring? I bring experience of having a community center in my hometown and using it a lot as a family. I bring the fact that I chose Topsham for a reason, possibly a temporary reason, but now I might want to consider staying here longer term. So I want something that will bring value to my home, to my children, to a lot of different things, as well as my own well-being, psychologically, and you know, just culture. I think it's important to share culture in the community.
Tom, you wanna go?
My turn?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I've lived here in Topsham for about 17 years now, and I joined the committee because I have an interest in Topsham. It is, well, it was just spelled out, Topsham's a great place to be. And I hope I can bring this perspective of maybe the seniors in town. As I look around the table, I think I got more gray hair than all of you. So,
You got more hair than I do.
I also have experience with the community center and in the budgeting of a community. So I think a community center is a great place, a great thing in the right place. And they do bring the community together.
And in some way, you're a money person, I'm hearing. Is that, have you been on committees that bring that out in you?
Yeah, I've been chairs of finance committees and chair of board of directors and nonprofits and in my.
And a former
working
selectman,
occupancy was there too.
And you were a selectman?
Pardon?
You were a selectman as well?
No, here at Highland Green.
no, but I thought you were a selectman in your previous, before you moved to Topsham. Am I wrong?
The people that have been around, and probably I've been around longer than anybody, and I think it was 2008, I ran for the Board of Selectmen for the town of Topsham.
Okay,
It
that was
a
right
runoff,
up.
with Jimmy,
Yeah,
I can't remember his last name, and Ruth Lyons loves to say that I literally lost by 1 vote.
Oh,
So that's.
I give you a vote.
but you currently serve on the finance committee, am I correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and my apologies, Tom, I do know you ran for selectman here, but I thought you had been a selectman where you lived previously.
No,
No?
I spent a lot of time in Washington DC, and I wouldn't call that a.
Okay, all right, my apologies on that one then.
Oh,
Do for his job, but before he retired.
Tom, were you retired military?
I'm retired from the reserves, Coast Guard Reserve for 20 years. But it's a season, so I'll tell you that, because I worked 34 years for the IRS and the last 5 in Washington DC.
There we go. That's
All right,
it.
you're a money guy.
Everybody loves the IRS.
I just don't have any, that's all.
All right, Rob.
Yeah, so I'm just like Steve, 3 kids in the community. My initial really focus was about the need that I saw just for the community as a whole. And with my background being in Wisconsin, involved with athletics in the community, you know, I felt Topsham for the years that I've been here really could kind of create an epicenter for town, which I think it lacks. It's not the downtown coffee shops where you're passing, you know, other folks outside of our school campus is where I really find it. So that was really my goal. And then I think, you know, I just watched Wiscasset evolve with just a really simple community center. And it was just kind of inspiring to me to see, like, you know, a bunch of kids and their programming and seniors, how they all kind of, it brought them all together.
Did you grow up there?
Yeah, I grew up in Wiscasset,
Yeah.
and it actually, the community center opened the year I graduated high school. But it was interesting to return to town and see just the difference, and just, there was just such a good feel around the, you know, their facility, from everyone, from, you know, young parents, with children at the pool, to seniors in the community room, and it was really great.
We drove there for swimming lessons for my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like, you know, it's something that the town would benefit from in just an incredible way, so.
And professionally?
Yeah, so that was part of it. I studied architecture and engineering in school, which I don't really, you know, doesn't bring a whole lot to the table. I understand traffic patterns and some of that type of stuff.
Oh, I think that's great.
Could have had you on the comp plan.
Engineer, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I left, so it's not really, I wouldn't say it's truly my background, but I mean, I'm organized and, you know, have to be, obviously I'm in law enforcement, so it doesn't really do a whole lot.
Mhm.
I can evaluate you know, a property from a security perspective for sure. As you know, Mark did the same thing with the
And then
table, so.
make sure the community center has good security.
Absolutely,
That's good.
yeah.
Okay, so Mary Kate Appicelli, so I have 3 kids in Topsham, and I have a background in public health, and so I have an interest in the health of our community as a whole, not just each individual, but public health involves all of the things that come into our lives, whether it's transportation, do you have to drive everywhere? Are there walking opportunities? Is there places where you can get fresh food and access to social interactions, which is something like, to go off of what Rob was saying, I participated in the comp plan update, which was the 10-year plan for the town. And one of the things that we heard overwhelmingly from people was the lack of a place for people to gather. And they really liked when we had the event down at the down in the lower village. And I recognized as well the same thing about having intergenerational opportunities for a gathering, and really helping with people with mental health and well-being to have social connectivity. So I like the idea of a gathering spot. What the actual content is, I'm, you know, flexible about that. I feel like as long as we have a place where people can see each other, and especially in these long winters, have a place to go, it would be amazing. So, and whether that's an existing space that already exists or something that would be new, I think we should, you know, think about those types of opportunities.
So I think what I think about after hearing everybody's, you know, things that they bring is that we just need a well-rounded person who's committed to coming. And, you know, I think as much as they can bring, you know, understanding of the process, which I didn't start with at all. I think that that's helpful, like with the RFPs and the proposals and things like that. That is, you know, any sort of architecture building kinds of minds, I think would be amazing. That would be really great. I don't know what other characteristics of a person would be helpful, do you think?
I don't even know that would be all that helpful, because inevitably you're gonna hire somebody.
Hire a builder,
Yeah,
right.
like they did over at the school, you know, the Portland design team, and they go to town based on, you know, the estimate they provide. But yeah, I think, I mean, I would agree, you know, positive, engaged, committed to the community center, but to really understand that the timeline, whether it's 2 years or 5 years, whatever that is. And I think it might actually be beneficial, maybe it's been done, but to almost draft like what this process actually does look like until you're breaking ground.
And that might be something Bob can help us with.
It may be that, I know I can speak personally for me, that would be really beneficial. Because, you know, to go meeting and selectmen and then back, and I think that would be helpful to have a better understanding, better image of what, your timeline looks like, and
We can ask Bob about that.
yeah.
I do think that how I see it proceeding, kind of in a rough form, is we're now on equal playing terms, so to speak, with what the selectmen want, and fully understand that, so we can start to work within that. I think they wanted the survey, they got the results of this survey, they saw there was an interest higher than what they thought. They also saw what people were looking for in the survey, and what people's concerns were. And so I think that the next step of doing the needs assessment to really give value to what we think we want with the needs assessment, and then following the needs assessment, I would imagine that we're gonna have to get more funding for a feasibility study at that point. The next step would be what land's available, what type of places make it feasible to build what we're thinking or what we see from our needs assessment. And then there's the process of how do we fund it, where do we locate it, and that kind of goes. So I kind of see those steps of the process, which all can take a lot of time,
Sure.
and being honest with it, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and we always have you guys who can like guide us through, so I think as long as somebody's just willing to show up at the table, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I was thinking about is there a perspective that's not at the table right now that we should add? Because, I mean, we have a sort of an athletic side, but is there like an artistic side, or, like someone who would bring maybe a different use of a community center that we don't have at the table that we should reach out to?
Yeah, you can look at it in demographics. So I mean, it's great
Yeah.
that Tom's here, number one, but all of us have children right now, but maybe somebody like an empty nester at this
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
They're just
Tom,
gonna
you have any
use
friends?
people are gonna use the
Wanna
community
come?
center for other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom, do you know, I mean, if you could think about people that you know, maybe from
Other senior citizens.
other seniors.
That's a huge part of the
Yeah.
community center.
Well, I think the difficulty right now is that people are just afraid of COVID.
This is
Yeah, well,
great.
we're gonna work on the virtual policy,
Yeah,
so we
but
can do virtually.
We have just about shut down that community center up here.
Uh,
They just don't want people into the building in a gathering.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well,
right-
keep it
right
in
now-
mind if you do think of anybody who wants to think long-term. That'd be
Sure.
great.
It'd be nice to have some more senior citizens input.
I like the artistic side too. That's, a good community of people. to think about.
It'd be
Okay.
interesting to evaluate some of the comments that were brought in from that
Mm.
initial survey, because there were several about art, music, and
Yeah,
different spaces,
yeah.
and to maybe target some of those folks.
Mhm.
Were those all anonymous, Pam, or?
No, there were, if you download
Yeah,
the
several
entire
people.
document, you could see who some people's
Yeah,
comments
that's
were.
right.
And we did put a letter out to those that shared their emails saying we were looking for more participation and
Be a business
committee
owner,
members. What's that?
Business owner, possibly.
A business owner, yeah, right?
There were
A
few
daycare
names.
provider, maybe?
Yeah.
Like something like that. Might be interesting.
It's kind of interesting because the people that I feel like.
No,
we
that's the
got-
thing now. That's what I mean, like somebody who has a
The people
finger
we got
on little
resistance from, I think, and concern from
Mm.
are the fitness people that have fitness fitness in the area, fitness memberships, like the two that are down at the mall. There's a concern on them, from them of losing, that if we were to build this and it had a fitness center in it, they'd lose some of their following. People would buy in with it instead. I think daycare providers, I heard from a lot of home care providers. This is just off the record, but just comments about, gee, are you really thinking you're gonna open daycare? That kind of stuff, which I mean, I can tell you, if you look at Brunswick Rec, they don't even have they used to have the best preschool around for years. But now that the preschools have all gone to, gone in the schools, I mean, most of the schools now have preschool. So that childcare need at a certain level is before and after school. It's not
Yeah,
daycare.
I'm thinking more of just somebody who might know people with young children.
Yeah.
And maybe to get one for,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
That's
Well, yeah,
so
okay.
to those that are
we should-
listening, that's what we
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, okay, so renewed interest in maybe identifying people who could be on the board,
Yeah.
so you guys reach out.
Keep thinking.
Well, talk to Jim Howard. He's got a little, I don't know how busy, I mean, I know the guy's busy, but he's obviously, his background is in large scale commercial projects. He's a empty nester now, he's staying in the community.
That'd be great, or his wife too.
Or so,
And he knows a lot of people, so
and he knows a lot of
if
people.
it's
and he
not
knows-
him, it could be
Yeah,
somebody
maybe
else.
he would know someone if he doesn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
That'd be great.
good, okay.
All right, let's keep going. Attendance, we just wanted to review that we're at this point generally meeting one time a month, evenings, outside hours, of work hours. I should have put the virtual thing there, but you know, we're wondering, would it be helpful to set a few meetings in advance for anybody? I'm fine going month to month. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't know with sports schedules if it's helpful to know, or maybe you don't know your schedules. I don't know. Does anybody feel the need to plan far ahead, or is one month?
I do think at least the one meeting ahead would be helpful, at the very least. I don't mind 3 meetings, at least trying for it, but making one of them concrete.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I'm about to be coaching AAU and baseball again at the same time, so that is a concern of mine.
Mhm.
And certainly notice is better if we could keep it consistent. I don't have those scheduled at this point.
And I'm fine to go off
But
of
you said-
those that are, what's that?
At least if you set one now, you'll
Right.
be able to schedule around it a little bit.
Yeah,
If there's a certain day of the week, that's.
yeah, Mondays seem to be the best.
I like Monday.
Yeah, Monday actually right now.
I do as
works
well.
for
Tom,
me,
is
too.
Mondays okay for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay, and for you too? Is that? Okay. All right, we'll shoot for Mondays and we'll leave here with a.
Wednesday, right?
I was just gonna check the
Selectmen
room
is
schedule and
Thursday,
see what we're.
so Monday nights is a good night for me.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
And then allowed absences, David mentioned that, I don't know, I think it was as long as you let people know that you're not coming. Just wanted to be clear with that, I don't remember.
If they're excused, if as long as you let them know you're coming. For some reason I've got the row number 3 in the back of my
Yeah.
head, that you want to try to avoid more than 3 absences. even if they're-
Unexcused absence.
Even if they're.
Even if they're,
excused,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
3 in a row, isn't it, or is it 3 in general?
I don't know if it's set that 83 per year, I'd say.
Yeah.
but it's
and I
probably-
think just in my mind, if you're not able to come regularly, then we talk about it. And, you know, see what's up, see
Yeah.
how it's going, right?
Yeah,
I do think that the ability to have a Zoom and have a meeting that allows the participation makes it a little bit
Yeah.
easier for
Okay.
folks.
So to keep going, roles on the committee, at this point, I am chair. I like being a co-chair. I do well bouncing ideas off of people and, I don't know, Mary Kate has offered to maybe co-chair with me, because I just create things better that way, and I really appreciate that, so, but we're also absolutely open to anybody who wants to be a co-chair. I don't know, right, Mary Kate, am I saying it right?
You guys are great.
I guess the only thing that I feel a strong concern for is the secretary, because we have had a couple of times when people have said, when are your meetings, where are your minutes,
mhm.
that type of thing, and we have to be sure to have those type of things available and on the web.
Right.
Which I can load it for anybody and do
Okay.
it, but I really shouldn't be, nor Mark should be the people writing the minutes, because you guys are the membership.
Okay. Tom, what do you think about for you for a role? And a long-standing person here.
It's up to you. I'm already secretary of the finance committee, so.
Does that mean your secretary role is full, or do you want to be secretary?
I was trying to think of a nice way of saying that, Leslie. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I would do one, well, I guess the only other one we get is co-chair, but
yeah, I think that is the only other one. So you want to just sit tight as a member? Is
I
that,
would. I'd prefer
Okay.
that.
I'm happy to try the secretary role, at least for a meeting or two to see, you
I
know.
guess you'd have to tell me what a chair and a co-chair necessarily is. I mean, like, I understand what a chair is, you sort of run the meeting, I get that. But what is the role of a co-chair?
it's really, I mean, at this point, I think prior to meetings, we would have a conversation about what do we need to talk about, what's on the agenda, where are we heading, and then perhaps there's other follow-up things like sending an email to somebody or
Presenting to the selectmen
Yeah.
or dealing with whoever we decide upon with the fees, you know, to do the needs assessment, that type of
so
thing.
it's just kind of first to step up, I think. So it's, I think it's some flexibility. I don't have flexibility during the week, but so I think having somebody who does have some flexibility is great. I have flexibility in the summer, not during the week. So really, it's just a brainstorming and it's a first up at that, I think, just to be available to follow up with phone calls and things like that. So.
That's the only reason I asked that, because you said brainstorming, and I kind of thought that's what these meetings were all about, was brainstorming, but you guys are having brainstorming sessions outside of it?
On what needs to be put on the agenda, what do we need to address? What do we need to talk about?
Okay.
I do best if I have a detailed approach.
Oh,
walking through a meeting,
oh,
you know?
by all means, yes, I agree.
So I would be fine to keep it as it is for a couple months, give you a couple months under your belt, and then we can always reevaluate, Steve, if you want to. step
Oh, no,
up.
whatever makes it move along faster,
Okay.
that's fine. I mean, these are just questions.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Okay.
Rob's the secretary, we just voted on that.
Okay, Rob's in.
Yeah.
So then we have to think about,
Leslie, can I jump back
Yes,
for 1 second?
please.
So I just checked the town calendar.
Yeah.
The fourth Monday of the month, there are no meetings
Oh.
in the building, so that's always open. The first and third, the Board of Appeals would theoretically meet in here if they had something.
what time?
It says 7 to 9.
Oh.
But they frequently cancel their meetings because they don't have anything. And there's always the option too, to potentially go up to the conference room upstairs.
Mm.
Although this room's better for spacing for COVID reasons right now. And then the second Monday of the month is the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. Looks like they're usually in the conference room upstairs, but they could possibly use the owl. So I'd say if you wanted something that's absolutely clear, the fourth Monday of the month might be the best. Monday. So,
Yeah.
Let's do the fourth Monday, but then maybe meet with Bob before that. Maybe in 2 weeks, could we maybe try to meet with Bob? Would be my thought. Okay, so that's good to know. So the other thing with the secretary, just to go back to that, is we need to have the notes in an organized place. We need to decide if we're gonna continue to communicate with by email. You know, at one point we had, whatever,
Base camp.
base camp,
Yeah,
whatever works. I think simple is best. I get the emails, I don't, you know, so it's fine with me if we just stick to email. But then the notes would just be on the town website.
Yeah.
Are you
It's really up
techie?
to-
So you can get them to Pam at least? or
yeah,
type
yeah,
of-
yeah, I can
Just type of-
definitely, I'm not technical, I can go to town for sure.
You can email them to Pam, you're good?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, no, I can definitely do
and
that.
is that,
Do we circulate them amongst ourselves before they go up to be sure everybody to accept them?
yes,
Yeah.
I would say
Okay,
yes.
so each month we would accept them and then they would go up.
Okay,
Okay, I will tell you that there is the Times Record has an individual who is reported for Topsham who often calls and asks questions and wants to know where this committee is headed. Hayal Gensteady, am I saying it right?
I think so.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean now. Yeah.
But she's often will ask and often will want to know how things are going. And so it would be helpful to have the minutes and have the agenda so that Hayal can stay on
great.
top of it and to keep the community informed at her level if needed.
great.
Yeah, I like that, I mean, the more transparency, we can provide, obviously the better the process.
Okay.
Just looking at what Brunswick's going through, so.
Great. Okay, so as far as scheduling meetings, we'll leave here with a meeting scheduled, and then we'll stick with the fourth week. So
And what time do you want those? Like, the fourth Monday?
what works for people, 6:30?
Yeah.
Is that okay, 6:30
I'm great
to?
with later, but I can 6:30 can hopefully work, yeah.
I mean, I could do 7 if need be. I can't do probably before 6:30.
I think 6:30 is great for me. Just because then at this point, I was hoping to be done at 1:15, and we might.
Well, Rob, are you gonna be able to make it though if it's at 6:30?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm gonna do is just schedule it in advance, so that'll be helpful, but I guess we can just have the conversation if it becomes an issue. If it's
Yeah.
an issue, then
We
we'll
can
just
absolutely push it. if
push it
it's-
back a half an
yeah.
hour or whatever it is.
Tom, for you?
It's fine. 6:30 is good.
Easy. Steve, you're good? 6:30?
Yeah.
And Pam and Mark?
I'll
Good,
do it
okay.
at 3:30.
Okay, all right, identify roles of town supports. Are you okay with the level of participation, Pam and Mark?
I'm okay.
The Mark actually about Pam.
Did I decide on co-chair or because Rob's gonna be secretary or that would you?
Would you please be co-chair?
Fine, I'm gonna co-chair.
I know you kind of, I think when it said if you need me
Unless
to.
Steve wants to do it. Do you want to be co-chair?
Maybe at some point, but I gotta feel it out, see whether I want to continue this or not.
That's, I feel like you should get a couple meetings
I-
under your belt first.
I agree.
Whatever
Whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
I
We
mean,
gotta keep the ladies together, it's important.
well, no, I just like, I mean, I'll do whatever. So if you want to wait and see what we get.
But I
for
do think
numbers,
that I'll
or-
have to get a fancy title at some point too, so.
You could gavel.
I could be the
Secretary.
I could be the assistant to the co-chair.
Leave that
You
at
could be
that.
the fundraising chair.
I just wasn't sure if we.
How about fundraising?
I think
No D.
I would like you to
Yeah.
continue.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. if Steve's
Okay.
cool with that.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think I would like to revisit it in a couple months.
Okay,
But
We've only,
you are the acting co-chair as of now.
yes, right.
okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you. Okay.
And
I'm sorry.
Motion to accept.
I don't know how these Robert's rules, what are we doing? I don't know the rules of the gavel.
I don't know,
No, the gavel was just a joke.
much less.
Oh,
Formal.
okay, I don't know.
And Pam, are you comfortable with our communications?
I do
My
think-
my concern is that I'm giving you what you need and that I don't overstep. I sometimes may need to be told to do this because I've been here so long that there's an investment that I feel or a knowledge base that I want to be sure everybody understands.
Oh, no, I've never felt that.
Yeah. we
No,
are.
you've been great.
Does Tom have anything to say?
You're the assistant.
Tom,
chair.
anything for you in this
No, I'm fine.
product or area?
What else do you think Pam should be doing, Tom? That was the big question.
I've got my list here that you gave me, Mark.
That was quick. That's good.
All right, okay, that was base camp. We're not gonna go with base camp? Is that, are we deciding that? Or do you,
I
are you
don't even
familiar with base?
understand how it works.
Yeah, that
yet.
was really,
You're right.
yeah.
Okay, it was an extra layer that I
Yeah, it
don't think we need. Okay. So scheduling meetings, where do notes go? Only to you. That's what we're doing? Do we need our own? Yeah, I can keep a file of,
No, if they're put on, once you accept them, they become a document, they go on town website, they go to the clerk's office.
Well, because I think what we had talked about though is the possibility of like a Google, could we as a committee have like a Google Drive folder where we would keep things like these documents that you're sending us or any versions of stuff or whatever, or are we not allowed to do that?
You certainly could. But I think to go along with what Rob was saying, with transparency, it'd be
Yeah.
nice to have, because we're trying to get in the habit of all the town committees having, if you would, whatever meeting date, you might see a video of the meeting, you'd see
Yeah.
the notes, you'd see the agenda. So put up the final stuff, we'll put there. There's
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with putting